Yeah, so the withdrawals can be so debilitating, way worse than heroin in my experience. So the big question is, what is happening in withdrawal?
Yeah, so what you're experiencing when you're in withdrawal is basically the transition between two doses of a psychiatric drug where the reduction was of a size that kind of challenged the nervous system's ability to adjust. So it's not that you've done something wrong, like tapering is not about, that's the ideal, but it's not about completely avoiding withdrawal. It's about mitigating enough for it to be tolerable, but you'd still feel some symptoms. And the actual withdrawal state, which I should stress is temporary now, it may not feel temporary when you're in it, but it is, like, naturally, by definition, it is a transition between two doses, making it temporary, in which the body, because it has adapted to the drug, the body thinks it needs the drug, and it's trying to communicate that to you via various symptoms, and that's what we define as withdrawal symptoms. So there are symptoms of a transition.
How is it possible that it creates this many symptoms that are so brutal?
Yeah, obviously, so if the symptoms are described as severe and brutal and extreme, which they can be from tapering, the first answer would be then the reduction might have been too large. Like if they're brutal, then we should maybe try to taper slower, obviously. But your question of why this can happen, well, to me it's not that weird. Like it's only because we call it a medicine and a drug that we're in a different category. But it enters the brain. Like psychiatric drugs penetrate what's known as the blood-brain barrier. That's how they work. So from nature, our brains and our nervous system are protected by something called the blood-brain barrier. It's there naturally, fundamentally. And what we do with the drugs we've created, humans have created, is something that penetrates that. So if you see it in that sense, it's not weird that the body can respond very aggressively when we change it too much at a time, because it's something that enters the brain. And therefore, the symptoms that the body can produce when we perturb this can be very massive. So like the technicalities of what the withdrawal state is, using antidepressants as an example, and the principle is the same with all drugs. Like the body will do the opposite of what the drug does. So say that you increase serotonin and other neurotransmitters with antidepressants. What the brain does is called a downregulation. So imagine that we're increasing serotonin with a drug. Now the body recognizes this as something external and artificial, basically. So it puts on the brake. It'll perform what's called a downregulation. So we increase serotonin, and the brain just makes itself less sensitive to the now excess serotonin, if that makes sense. So if we turn up, the body just turns down. And when we then reduce the dose, the body kind of, think of it in the sense that the body expects the level of serotonin that was there on the dose of the drug to which the body has adapted. And that's why it reacts too. So once you've been taking for the drug for a long enough time, your body is like literally dependent on it, because if you don't maintain the high level of serotonin caused by the drug, then underneath that's where the withdrawal state lures. And as long as you keep taking the drug every day, you kind of keep it at bay, the withdrawal symptom, the withdrawal condition. You won't feel it. But coming off the drug, like you don't just go straight from taking a drug to not taking a drug. Like there's this third state in the middle where your body is on its way off the drug, and that's different, right? So if you can think of it this way, when you want to come off the drug, we have to provoke the underlying withdrawal state. We have to gradually adjust the body to a lower and lower dose. In the case of antidepressants, most antidepressants, not all of them, that would mostly be a question of resuming normal serotonin levels and all the other affected neurotransmitters. So it's kind of like a present in a very, very wrapped in ugly paper, right? Because withdrawal symptoms it's a sign of healing. Like, and it may sound weird because it's uncomfortable, it's painful, it can be. So how can this be a good thing? Well, it's a sign of a good thing because it's a sign of a body healing. And that's one way to get through it too, because it may feel like you are falling apart. It may feel exactly, and I should stress may, it's not that all people get these kind of symptoms, but enough people do for it to make it a problem. Like, it may feel exactly as something is wrong and as you're falling apart and that your nervous system is like decaying. But it is not like, and there is a mental trick to which is true, it's not just a trick, but it's a huge part of getting through that, having some narrative around it where it's actually healing. Like, a wound hurts too. A lot of things that are healing hurt, and this is the same. Yeah, so the dose reduction, think of it that way, it kind of leaves the system, the nervous system, in a temporary imbalance. Now we have an imbalance because the body expects this level of serotonin, but at the lower dose there's this level. And we're waiting for the body to readjust, and that leaves the body in a temporary imbalance between what it expects, like the level of neurotransmitters, and what it has adapted to. And the body is perfectly capable, it's called homeostasis actually, it's the system's constant seeking towards balance, and now there is an imbalance, temporary, and the body is fundamentally made to and capable of fixing this little tiny chemical imbalance we create upon a dose reduction. And the whole idea about tapering is to give the body a lot of small, and that's where the characteristic reduce and stabilize comes in. Like giving it a bunch of small tasks that it knows how to fix without giving you terrible withdrawal symptoms, as opposed to just stopping or making a few drops and then getting over it. This is the better solution. So the main message here is the body knows how to heal this. It knows how to rebuild the receptors that were down-regulated once you're on the drug. It just needs it in small bits and pieces.